Welcome to another explainer. Usually when we think of a dictionary or a vocabulary list, we picture this really tedious alphabetical slog, right? But definitely not today. Today we're taking some dense, static information and we're transforming it into a totally fascinating narrative. We're going to dive into a very specific list of vocabulary words and uncover the hidden stories they actually tell us about human behavior, ambition, and society as a whole. So let's just dive right in.
Okay, at first glance, this probably just looks like a standard static page from a textbook. This is actually page 509 from the book Vocab Prodigy by Nimisha Banzel, and it's specifically listing words 77 through 90. Now, it looks like just ink on paper, sure, but we aren't just going to sit here and read it. We're actually going to decode these 14 words into a highly engaging conceptual framework. We're going to see exactly how these seemingly random words perfectly map out the human experience.
So instead of that boring alphabetical march, we're breaking this exact vocabulary list down into 4 core themes. First up, the driven mindset. Second, stagnation and disorder. Third, catalysts for change. And finally, number 4, the subtle details. All right, let's kick things off with our first theme, the absolute foundation of personal success, the driven mindset. The very first word we're looking at is conscientious. It's defined here as wishing to do what is right, especially regarding work or duty. And what I absolutely love about this source text is that it actually includes this beautiful Hindi translation right beside the English word. It really hits home at the universal nature of this trait. Being conscientious, it isn't just about working hard. It's about having this internal moral compass that points you straight toward your duty.
In the real world, a conscientious person is diligent. They're careful. They're meticulous. They literally sweat the small stuff because, well, it matters. And this stands in stark contrast to the antonyms we see here. If you lack this trait, you risk becoming careless, negligent, or just flat out irresponsible. It really sets the baseline. Are you building with care, or are you just leaving things up to chance?
But conscientiousness alone isn't quite enough. Word number 85, ambitious, adds a hugely important layer to our foundation. It's not just about doing things right, it's about having or showing a strong desire and determination to succeed. It's the literal engine that powers all that meticulous work. Just look at these rapid-fire synonyms: aspiring, determined, enterprising. They really capture what it takes to push forward, right? It's a super active state of being. And then consider the antonyms: unmotivated, unambitious, indifferent. Indifference is totally the enemy of progress here. If you want to achieve anything at all, you absolutely cannot afford to be indifferent. Okay, so what happens when that incredible drive and ambition suddenly hits a brick wall? Well, that brings us to our second section, stagnation and disorder. These are the forces of resistance that every single one of us inevitably faces. Now, the crucial takeaway here is this brilliant tension provided directly by the text. It contrasts word 78, resilience, right up against word 81, rigidity. Resilience is your ability to recover quickly from difficulties, showing toughness, showing adaptability. But rigidity, that is the exact opposite. It's the absolute inability to be changed or adapted. When ambition meets an obstacle, resilience bends and recovers. But rigidity just breaks. And when people or organizations become rigid and they get fearful of the future, they often start hoarding. Word 79 defines hoarding as the act of accumulating and hiding supplies or valuables. Instead of moving forward, the whole focus shifts into this defensive crouch. It's a classic symptom of a stagnant mindset, totally driven by the fear that there just won't be enough to go around. Which leads to a really profound question about how we operate day to day. Are you stockpiling resources, knowledge, or power solely for yourself out of pure rigidity? Or are you embracing the antonyms? Are you dispersing, sharing, and scattering your value with others? Because true growth absolutely requires the latter. Because think about it. If you don't share and you remain super rigid, the text gives us the ultimate consequence with word 87, insipid. A life, or even an entire organization, characterized by hoarding and rigidity eventually becomes completely insipid. It lacks flavor, interest, or any excitement whatsoever. It just becomes bland, dull, and totally lifeless. It's honestly the ultimate tragedy for an ambitious mind. Thankfully, we don't have to stay stuck in that insipid reality forever. We have catalysts for change, which is our third theme. These are the sparks, the words that actually break us out of that stagnation and push us back into motion. But here's the catch. Before you can change the world, your new plan absolutely has to be viable. Word 82 tells us that being viable means being capable of working successfully. It's got to be feasible. An idea might sound super exciting, but if it isn't practical or workable, if it's unrealistic like the antonyms point out, it is never going to survive that jump from thought to reality. Once you actually have that viable plan, though, that's when you can unleash Word 86, revolutionize. This means to bring about a significant change in something. You aren't just, tweaking the edges anymore. You are transforming, innovating, and modernizing. You're actively fighting against those antonyms of preserving, maintaining, or stagnating.
Which really leads me to ask you directly, based on this fascinating contrast in our source text, when you look at your own goals, your own daily actions, are your efforts trivial or are they exponential?
Just think about the sheer conceptual contrast between these two states. Exponential, that's word 83, means becoming more and more rapid, escalating and accelerating way beyond just linear growth. On the flip side, we have trivial, word 88, which means of little value or importance, insignificant, petty, and minor. When we set out to revolutionize something, we have to strive for that exponential impact and literally just leave all the trivial distractions behind us. Finally, let's wrap things up with our fourth theme, the subtle details. These are the highly nuanced words from our source that basically dictate how we navigate and interact with the super complex world around us. Let's look at word 80, construe. It means to interpret or understand the meaning of something in a specific way. Honestly, how you construe the world around you literally dictates your reality. Two people can look at the exact same setback, right? One construes it as a total failure, the other construes it as this amazing learning opportunity. So you have to make sure you interpret and infer correctly, rather than falling into the trap of misunderstanding or just confusing the facts. And here's the thing, your interpretations are almost never formed in a vacuum. They are heavily influenced by what you are affiliated with. Word 84 defines this as being officially attached or connected to an organization. The groups, the allied networks, the organizations we choose to associate ourselves with, they deeply, deeply shape how we construe the world. So we always have to ask ourselves, what is the actual nature of these affiliated groups? Are they super restrictive or are they permissive? Word 89 defines permissive as allowing or characterized by great freedom or leniency. An environment's level of permissiveness will completely alter how much ambition and how much revolution it can actually tolerate. The text shows us that being permissive means being lenient, tolerant, and liberal. And this stands in stark contrast to the antonyms being strict, restrictive, rigid, or authoritarian. Now, while too much rigidity causes that stagnation we talked about earlier, we also have to be really careful about going too far toward the other extreme. Because remember, if we lack all conscientiousness, completely abandon our duty, and just become entirely unconditionally permissive, we risk descending into the very last word on the page, word 90, chaos. Chaos represents complete disorder and confusion. It is pure turmoil and havoc, and it destroys the very order and structure we actually need to make our ambitious plans viable in the first place. It's pretty wild, right? We've journeyed from the meticulous care of being conscientious all the way to the literal brink of chaos, purely by decoding just a single page of a vocabulary book. So, as we wrap up this explainer on the structural power of language, I want to leave you with this final, vital thought. When you are faced with an unpredictable world, will you use your resilience to revolutionize the chaos? Keep learning, keep questioning, and I'll catch you in the next explainer.